So weather could be nasty tonight, but I would assume the outcome of this game is not going to be one of these blowouts. I mean, if you're looking for a blowout, it would be Michigan. I mean, Washington, 9 of the last 10 games have been decided by single digits. Last 5 games, they've won by a total of 21 points. They love to win these tight, close games. They seem good enough, even if in a loss, that I just don't see this being a blowout either way. Do you?
So I don't. However, I'm never surprised in these oil and water kind of games. You know what I mean? Like last week, Bama, Michigan would have really surprised me if that was a blowout, just because the style of game that we knew we were going to see wasn't conducive to that. With this kind of game, no, I don't expect it. No, the odds makers don't expect it. But I don't know if I were to just kind of open my eyes fourth quarter and it's 31-17, either one of these teams up, I wouldn't go, whoa, how'd that happen? I could see the path where that happens. Washington had that kind of lead on Texas. Michigan's had that kind of lead on several teams this year. The thing that I wonder is sometimes that age-old adage of, well, it's imperative to have a fast start is not true. Some football games, you see a team get a 7-0 lead and they lose 35-10. So it's not always relevant to the outcome. But in this kind of game, because of the style and how diametrically opposed these teams are in terms of offensive philosophy, I think the start is imperative. Like, think about being at the end of the first quarter, 10-0 Washington. Michigan's got to go into catch-up mode, panic mode a little bit, versus end of the first quarter, Washington's had one possession, and it's bookended by a couple of 6 to 8 minute Michigan drives, and it's 10-0 Michigan, and all of a sudden you feel like, you know, the suffocation is starting to happen. I think we'll know a lot more after that. I'm not going to bet the game for very good reason. I have no clue about either of these teams, as it turns out. But if I were to do it, I think it's like a custom-made situation to get midway to latter part of the first quarter. You felt the game out a little bit at that point. You can give yourself a little bit of an edge, even in like a championship-type game tonight.
What happened to Washington after that Oregon win in the regular season? They beat Arizona State 15-7 and lucky to win it. And then they go to the Farm and they only win by 9. And since then, they played really good football. What went wrong in those 2 games? Was that you just sort of brush that off as just the aftermath of a big win over Oregon? Or did something break with that team and they had to rediscover themselves?
I think it's a little both, but I'd lean more towards the latter. I'd lean more towards things breaking the right way with the team. Remember those Bama-Clemson games, 15 and 16, I mean, especially 16 and then 18 as well. When Clemson won their 2 titles against Bama, I remember the lead up to those games. And I remember looking back at points during Clemson's season and saying, really? Like, they got beat by Syracuse or they barely snuck by so-and-so. How would this team beat Alabama? Well, they did in a blowout fashion one time. And the reason is they just peaked at the right time. It's like watching a team make a push for like one of the final wild card spots in baseball. You know, well, this team was 2 games below 500 at the All-Star break. All of a sudden they're red hot. How did that happen? It's just peaking at the right time. Someone does it every year in college football. It's just most of the time they've lost too many games. Arizona is a good example. Arizona gets red hot at the end of the year, but they can't make the playoff. They've lost too many games. Washington happened to win some of their clunkers. So they were both alive in the playoff picture and still able to ramp it up and get hot. And this is the result. Like, I'm sure Texas looked and said, all right, we've watched their regular season. We've seen the way we finished the regular season. We should beat them. Well, you didn't get regular season Washington. You got playoff Washington, which fascinates me about tonight's game. Like, I think there's still a version of Washington that goes out and takes the cattle prod to Michigan's neck. And everyone's looking around saying, how are they doing this to us? They're just peaking at the right time.
Josh Pate is with us. Late Kick Josh, 24/7 Sports. You follow him on Twitter at Late Kick Josh. Give a thumbs up to all of his videos. Make sure you're subscribed and set your alerts like we ask you to do for us. Do the same thing for him. Late Kick Josh there at 24/7 Sports. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Do you want to tell us your Kalen DeBoer dream? So Pate had a dream about Kalen DeBoer, which is maybe influencing his pick tonight. Was it like a weird Kalen DeBoer dream or a believable one?
I'm not sure any dream of mine about Kalen DeBoer is believable,
okay,
but it was vivid. I'll just say it was vivid. And it was one of those lucid dreams where you feel like you could control yourself during the dream.
Right.
Then some fan, when I tweeted it out this morning, comes in my replies and puts this like Scooby-Doo animation of the ghost of Kalen DeBoer hovering over my bed, which he thought was funny. But in reality, that's pretty much what the dream was like.
Ooh.
And so in a year, like in a world where I'm 0-7 picking games where these teams are featured, is that not the sign? Is that not what I'm waiting on? Pick Michigan all week, night before, have a dream about the other coach, and voila, purple confetti raining down later that evening. And I'm like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank. I'm just looking up at the purple rain falling over me.
I think it's the ghost of Kalen DeBoer future begging you not to pick them. That's what it is.
Basically what I said this morning when I woke up.
But Pate, if Harbaugh wins a national championship, he will cement his legacy. But even if he doesn't, he's still going to be viewed as a great coach, got it done in the NFL, got it done at the college level. But Kalen DeBoer, I would say, coming into this season, 50% or more of casual college football fans didn't know who Kalen DeBoer is or was. And if he wins this game tonight, national championship in year 2, and he'll be 26-2. So I said it last week. I already think he's a top 5 team. I don't think it's an overreaction. If he wins tonight, I mean, where do you put DeBoer?
I put him up there, period. I don't have to see tonight, honestly. I put him up there, period. I almost think the outcome of any 1 4-quarter game is overblown if we put championship implications on it. But I understand why we value a championship game, obviously, the way we do. I would say your number may still be low. You said 50% of casual fans couldn't tell you anything about him at the beginning of the season. Lance, I still don't think they can. If you really cornered people and you said, do you like college football? And they said, yeah. You said, tell me 3 fascinating things about Kalen DeBoer. They'd probably be able to tell you it's the Washington coach. They don't even know where Sioux Falls is, much less that he coached there. They don't know any of that. They don't know he was the OC at Indiana for a year, a few years back. I don't think they know that. It's not totally their fault either. I mean, not everyone's tuned into everything all the time. I'm fascinated by this, okay? So if he wins, obviously his stock would never be higher. I wonder how he views his future at Washington. So the press availability here, all the questions have been at Harbaugh, and they've been a bunch of softballs, and DeBoer's not really opened himself up. So you're left to wonder, does he see the next 10 years at Washington? Is that where he is? Or does he look at this and say, wow, we really caught lightning in a bottle here. Like, we really did this right. But it's likely that this is the best we'll ever do at Washington. Let me ride this wave and let me try and parlay this into a bigger offer. He could do either because he's a Big Ten head coach from this point moving forward. I just wonder, like, when you get inside him, is he Chris Peterson, who's totally happy staying out of that fray and staying in the Pacific Northwest? Or is he a guy who looks at the college football opportunistic nature of this moment and says, hey, maybe Harbaugh leaves, maybe I take that Michigan job, or maybe I take one of these big, maybe Florida opens up soon. Maybe they want to go my direction. I don't know.
On Harbaugh, in both Pasadena and Houston, he's been given an opportunity to put the NFL rumors to rest and has not done so. If anything, he's added fuel to the fire. What does your gut tell you about him?
He'll go to the NFL if he gets the offer. There's got to be 2 tumblers fall into place there. You've got to have the desire, which he's clearly had for several years now, through no fault of his own. You want what you want, but you've also got to have an eligible suitor on the other side. And so that's why in this completely insane world where we play a college football championship game on a Monday night, right up against all these coaches being fired, that's the dominant conversation this morning. It's not who's going to win tonight. It's who's going to be fired this morning and afternoon, and which job could Jim Harbaugh possibly want? My gut says he'll go, but my gut is contingent on someone offering him the job. Like, I think it'll happen, but I don't even know if they know. I don't even know if Harbaugh knows. I don't know if Don Yee, his agent, I don't know if they know as of this moment.
Somebody's going to end up 15-0, and I don't know the next time with a 12-team playoff we're going to see an undefeated team, but both of these teams have been doubted each and every week, including last week. Most people said this is going to be a rematch of Alabama-Texas. So could the narrative on one of these teams, if Washington goes out and puts a 40 spot on this Michigan defense, or if this Michigan defense holds Washington to 14 or less, are we talking about one of these 2 teams being one of the great college football teams?
No, people won't say that. In fact, I think the opposite will be true. And forget what my opinion is going to be. My opinion should never have less relevance than this particular year on these particular teams. But I think a majority of people, when they do that whole greatest national championship teams of this millennium, I think 2023 Washington or Michigan will be middle of the pack. That even if they have a dominant win tonight, That's where I suppose people would put them. I don't know what you guys think. I got the sense that people have viewed this year as sort of a down year in college football. Like they thought Georgia was the dominant team, and then Georgia didn't even make the playoff. They got put out by Alabama. And so you were left with a field of imperfect teams. Washington, a bunch of close wins. Michigan's got the whole off-field stuff. That's what I'm fascinated by the way, because we've gotten to this point, and it's almost like that whole off-field stuff's been put on the back burner. If they win it, 5 years from now, how are people talking about Michigan? Yeah. I know how I'll talk about them. I wonder how the general college football public will talk about them. But to answer your question, no, I don't think you're looking at greatest team of all time or even like top 3 in the playoff era. But it doesn't matter because the trophy looks the exact same every year, regardless of who wins it.